This was a pretty good sized piece of avocado wood. I thought I would try it because it had a couple of crotch pieces on it, and I was really hoping for some crotch grain as well as interesting color that might get out of it. And as you see, it shows up and it's got some really beautiful pink color on the inside, and I was really excited to see that. One thing I notice when I go back to watch these videos is where I'm struggling here to get a nice clean cut. I also realize that the speed of my lathe is probably not turned up high enough. Now I did have a lot of voids, and you don't want to turn something like this big with that much space in between the cuts too fast, but I think just a little more RPMs would have helped this situation. I know once I did get the speed up, it cut so much better. Anyway, check out the color of this wood. Yeah, right here, I think I was running a little slow on that last cut. I made an increase in the speed, and the effectiveness of the cut was so much better. So just a little more RPM sometimes will help that bouncing and jumping that you get when you're trying to make a nice cut. Sometimes when you're shaping these pieces, you don't really know where you're going to go. Sometimes the wood itself dictates where you're going to wind up. But the cut I make here as I swing around towards the top played a big role in the final shape and the planning of this bowl. I just had the feeling or the thought that, hey, this kind of reminds me of Saturn. And that cut right there, and I decided to stop, played a role in the final shape of this bowl. Well, I got this thing flipped around, and I started playing with the shape a little bit, and I left that little rim on there, that little ring on there, and the more I took off, the more I felt like, yeah, it's gonna stay. So that was the plan from that point on. I continued shaping and hollowing with the ring left on there, knowing that I could always take it off if I didn't like it. I began hollowing it out with the 3/4 inch Carter and Son bowl gouge, but I switched right away to my favorite hollowing, actually one of my favorite tools for a lot of work is this just Carter. I don't know if it's associated with Carter and Son or not, but it's a Carter axe. It's just comfortable. It's not completely flat. Well, it's flat on the bottom, but it's got rounded over edges, and it can be rolled on its side for shear cutting just for shallow hollowing projects like this. So it works fantastic and was my favorite tool for hollowing. When I got a little deeper, I had a couple of catches that worried me, so I recently picked up a new hollowing tool, a deep one, but I don't use it in this particular project, and we'll go over it at another time. But this was a really nice tool, and I've enjoyed it very much. The Axe by Carter. So this is the finished green product, and I let it dry from here. Look at the color change from here to the dry section coming up now. So here we are about 10 months later. As you can see, I've got it remounted, but I was hoping just to trim it up and clean it up a little bit, but this turned out to be a knot, and the whole knot completely separated and shifted upwards. I don't know if I can do much with it after that or not. There won't be very much left. It'll be like a razor blade thin line on it. I'm gonna play with it, try to straighten it up and then clean it up a little bit. Try to finish this project up. Again, we have a art show coming up, and a few items for sale would be great. So I'm gonna play around with this, see how it does. I'm concerned it may not work out as I hope. Worst case is I might have to just trim it all off and smooth it out as best I can. So we'll play around and see how it goes. So the original epoxy repair I made right there had some voids in it, so I decided to go back and add a little more, trying to fill it up. And as you can see, I've got a bunch of other projects on my desk there that I'm also doing repair work on that'll be in future videos. Still wants to sink into the holes and run more than I thought. I'm gonna put it back on the lathe, turn it on real slow, so that kind of seems to keep epoxy in place. So let's try that. All right, we're back. The glue has dried pretty good. It's only been one day. It's sunk into the holes, but I think they're actually sealed off. I'm just gonna get some of the outside off, see what it looks like. We may have to do some more, but let's get down there and find out. I know it doesn't look like it, but you would have no idea how many times I had to stop the machine, take a look, do a little more cutting, do a little more shaping, stop the machine. I must have stopped and started that thing 100 times. I only show a few of the times that I actually had to do it, but it was a lot of stop and start activity. And I think I mentioned a new tool I'd gotten not too long ago. Well, I forgot I did actually use it. So here it is. It is a, wow, try to remember the name of that thing. I'll get back on that a little later. But it's a great tool, very long, very sturdy, with a small cutting tip on it, like a 12 millimeter. Inside it, I had some epoxy on the inside. It was catching, and it was a little spooky until I finally got it knocked down to where it was level with the wood, and it finally started smoothing out. But it works really fantastic. So that deep hollowing tool is an easy wood hollower. It's one of the easy wood products, and it works very, very well on these deep hollowing projects and where you got kind of catchy situations. So I do really highly recommend using that tool for these kind of situations. Finishing up the last grit now. Just want to make sure I got some little scratches out of here. And we're around this epoxy area. All right, I've got to finish the bottom before we do any finishing. I'm hoping to put it back on the 2.5-inch jaws, spread it out and hold it there like that. And if I don't tighten too much, I won't crack it. But probably should have put a paper towel or something over there, but that's what I was hoping for right there. All right, I finished sanding. I don't know if I showed you any of the bottom or not. I didn't show any of the bottom, it's just sanding. After I cut it all, I'll just sand back to, I think I went to 320 on that one. Working on considering a finish now. I think I'll probably spray a light coat of black. So this turned out to be a interesting project. It took 10 months or so from the beginning of the video to the end, and there was a 10-month gap in between. I had finished it up and put some, I don't know, something, wipe on something or other to kind of seal it, and as it dried. And as I was pointing out, that did not line up very well before I started this. So I actually cut it deeper. I had a lot of extra wood in there, thankfully, so I was able to cut it deeper, trim it down so it wasn't sticking out, you know, 1.5 inches out there. As the first video was, this kind of inspired me of Saturn. I've got a telescope, and I used to, and I still do, enjoy going out and looking at the planets and stars. And as I was cutting at one point, I just kind of saw that little lip there, and I said, oh, I'm gonna stop right there. Then I flipped it around with the intentions. I probably was still thinking about taking it off, but I went ahead and left it on there. Thought it was kind of cool. It was had a little more bulk in it at that point, but still has kind of an interesting look to it. And that was an interesting little spot right there. Was not planning on that. I think I was planning on some crotch wood coming out of there, some interesting grain. There's a little bit right there. But that turned out to be an interesting little spot that I almost decided it was not going to work. I thought, well, that's what epoxy is for. Let's just throw a bunch on there and see what happens. So that's the finished product. Appreciate you watching the video, and really appreciate you sticking it out to the end and taking a good look at the finished bowl. Avocado wood, which I kind of got tired of turning because I started on avocado 15, 16, 17 years ago. That's all I had, lots of it. And I didn't know how to dry wood back in those days. So I would just find some old stumps I had, and I was making things out of it. So I kind of got away from it, but I like turning it green. It smells good. Old dry wood to me is just kind of not a fun smell. But when it's green and then you finish in a dry piece, it's not the same. It's not as a piece, same as a piece you find on the ground. You're kind of like, okay, what am I going to do with this? So it does warp a lot, but under good conditions, it can be managed. But in most cases, easy. I'm finding I don't mind warping. I don't mind cracking. I don't mind fixing little cracks in there. I used to consider something like that history. Just throw it away and move on to the next. But fixing stuff with epoxy has been kind of fun, and that's what you get. So, again, thank you very much. Appreciate you taking the time to watch the video.